We are live. I'd like to welcome everyone to another episode of Heart to Heart with Bree. Tonight's guest is my friend Herbert Buckley. Herbert, please introduce yourself to the viewers.
Good evening, good night, everyone. Herbert Buckley. Um, as Bree mentioned, we've been friends for a very long time from high
Yes.
school
Yes.
and high school and neighbors. Grew up in Port Antonio, Jamaica. Been here in the United States for a very, very long time. Too long to tell, but you know, um, you know, life has been good, and I wanted to share what little knowledge I have with everybody in the audience. Spent a lot of time in human resources over 26 years. Um, Turned 61 and decided to um, make a change. And
Yes,
again,
and that's what we'll be talking about tonight. Making a change because let's face it, I'll call you Bertie. That's what feels weird calling you Herbert.
no, no,
Bertie.
I mean, Bertie, Herbert, whichever works.
Well, Bertie, it's like we're at an age now, we're not 20 anymore. And, originally we were going to talk about real estate because I've had you on several times, but, it just came to me because I remember you telling me about when you decided to go into real estate. And I found it very interesting. So I want you to go a little more into about your previous career. And what was it that made you decide to go into real estate?
All right, so I spent most of my time in drug retail.
Okay.
Um, Worked for three different drugstore chains, and started out in the store. Started out in a store as an hourly associate, and at the time it was just a part-time position because I was also doing insurance sales. But I don't know if most people understand sales at all. Feast or famine. Sometimes you make money, sometimes you don't. So the whole idea of going to the drugstore to work was to stabilize my income. Anyway, um, I managed to get into, a leadership role in a store. I was a store manager. And then from there, I ended up in the field, with the regional group. And at one point in time, I had 52 locations that I was managing for this particular drug retailer. So yes, I spent a lot of time on the road. The sad part about it is when I did that, when I was traveling all over North Carolina, South Carolina, parts of Tennessee, and into Virginia, taking care of those 52 stores, I lost a lot of time with my kids. Um, my week was, I'd get up, going to the office on a Monday morning, and then on a Monday night or a Tuesday morning, bright and early, I'd hit the road to try to get into stores and see what was going on, see how I could help. Um, Store visits, all right. For anybody who's worked middle management, you're required to do X amount of store visits and make sure the operations in these locations are running well. Did that for a long time. In 19, no, let's try. In 2011, I made a quantum leap from store operations into supply chain. Um, and I digress. I'm sorry about that.
Okay.
I
No
digress. Let me go
problem.
back
No
a little bit.
problem.
So, store operations was beginning to have a toll on my health because I was gone all the time. So I transitioned into human resources back in 2003, from store operations to human resources. I was under the impression that it would be easier. Not so true. I still had quite a heavy load as far as um, stores to carry and working with the different regional staff and everything. And then in 2011, I transitioned from the store group into supply chain.
Okay.
Um, for until 2015, I was a human resource manager for a facility with 360 people, and I think it's the part of human resources I enjoyed the most. It
Okay.
was a manageable group of people. I had a good team. I had a great team. Um, I had, two other HR managers helping me. I had a safety manager. I had a very, very good team. Two admins, one payroll admin person, and that little facility ran like clockwork. I'm proud to say it ran very well. It was not burdensome. We made our numbers every year. Um, and then in 2015, I decided to make a change, and
Okay.
that change was because I remarried, and my now deceased wife, she got a outstanding opportunity in North Texas. So at that point in time, she came up initially on her own, and then afterwards, a year later, in 2016, I joined her. She gave me an ultimatum. In other words, she said this long distance thing is not working, so get my act together, and I got my act together. From September 26, came up here, got settled in, um, got here July 4th, North Texas, and then in September 2016, I started with another retailer, but this time it was in ecom, the wonderful world of ecom. Boy, that was a proving ground. For 5 years, I stuck with it, and it was challenging. Main difference between supply chain and ecom is that ecom very, 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 very fast, hard to plan and
Yes.
project and to forecast. Um, North Texas, um, you know, unemployment probably anywhere about maybe 3.8% back at that time. If you subscribe to the fact that 2% of the population is unemployable, what that simply means is that all these other employers are trying to staff their facilities, and we have a lot of facilities in North Texas. Just about every major e-com organization is here, to include big bad Amazon. Anyway, we fought through that, and 2019, my wife was diagnosed with cancer, and we worked through that. She got her treatment. 2020, we thought we had it beat. Um, then it came back in 2021, and September 2021, she got very sick. She got very, very sick, and I was beginning to struggle. I was struggling at home, and I
Yes.
was also struggling at work. Um, I ended up tending my resignation and leaving the ecom organization I was working for in on December 3rd, 2021. And unfortunately, she lost the battle with cancer on the 22nd of um, January 2022.
So sorry to hear that. So sorry to hear.
Yeah, I mean, we can't plan or predict. We
No.
we do our best with what we have. But at that point in time, um, and let me back up a little bit. So, Tahita and myself, we've been talking about this real estate thing because she knew it was in my gut. she she knew it was there, right? And so when I turned 60, guess what my birthday present was? She had gone ahead and paid for all the classes.
Wow.
Okay.
What a lovely
Unfortunately,
gift. What a lovely gift.
I mean, she wanted me to do it, right? Unfortunately, I procrastinated because I had so much going on and her getting sick and all that kind of thing. I actually started the classes in um, March of 2022. So that's 2 months after she had passed. And because I realized if if for nobody else, but for her, I had to get it done.
Yes.
I got it done, got the classes done, started, you know, um, got my license in July 27th, 2022. And, I've been at it ever since. Um, I know you asked me what made me do it. Well, again, like I said, it's something I had thought about before. Um, Tahida wanted it to happen, and again, um, I just had to do it, and I was burnt out. You know, I saw my old boss that I used to work for, and you know, she knew I was burnt out at human resources in a building with over 1,000 people.
Oh my goodness.
All right, so again, big transition from 360 to 1,000, huge transition, and it took its toll. It took its toll, and it was a startup operation. It was a brand new operation. Um, but it can be challenging starting a new career. It can be challenging doing something different.
Yes.
Um, what I would say to anybody, if you're going to do, if you're going to venture into something new, it must be something you enjoy. If you are, you know, a mature individual like I am, you got to enjoy it. Otherwise, it's going to be a challenge.
I was about to ask you that. I'd like to welcome my dear friend Andrew Green and Irene Roper. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. You know, the older the older I get, I find that I'm not, well, I think I become more patient, but there are some things that I'm just not patient with anymore. And my tolerance level for certain things and people gets lower and lower every day, but I'm learning, to adjust my attitude. And I say that because sometimes I yearn for that sense of job satisfaction. And I'm not saying I hate my job, but I've had previous jobs that I actually loved a lot. And the reason why I asked you to do this topic is because I remember us having a couple conversations about you switching careers. And I was moved by how happy you were about it. You sounded very fulfilled. So that's why I wanted to cover this topic to encourage others who are making a career change like yourself. So I'd like you to address, because I wanted to ask you this. You got divorced when you were in your previous career. Did your workload have anything to do with that? I mean, I don't want to get super personal, but did you find that, because I know like my ex-husband was in the military, and being married to someone in the military is very, very hard and very challenging. So, if you want to answer that question, did your divorce have anything to do with your previous career? The
Let, let, let,
strain
let,
of it.
let's put it this way: it didn't help
Okay,
because I was gone so much.
good
Um,
answer.
I think it impacted um, the relationship with one of my kids. Um, at that point in time, he was in middle school, getting ready to go to high school when I was doing all this traveling all over the place, and I missed a lot of his stuff. I missed. I know it sounds cliche. Everybody says that, right? Oh, I'm working so hard. I missed my family, but it's real. That's all I can say.
You were provided, but it's a catch-22 situation, because you're out there making a living. You're doing your best. At the end of the day, you could choose to spend time with your family, but then what about the income?
Right. And I don't know if you remember, but um, we relocated from Florida
Okay.
because of the job. I mean, I lived in Florida for quite a number of years,
Okay.
and then I got a really attractive offer to come to North Carolina, or to go to North Carolina, I should say. And you know, I we made the move. It was the first time my wife at the time was the first time we actually agreed, because she always resisted leaving Florida because most of her family is in Florida, right?
Okay.
But she agreed. She jumped on it. She said, let's go do it. It sounded exciting. Now, what I didn't realize then was what it was going to take. It was a lot of work. They were expanding in the Carolinas and in Virginia. We were opening stores, opening a lot of stores, significant growth,
Okay.
and they needed help. They needed people who had experience in the field. So I jumped in it. Did it help the relationship? It absolutely. I don't think it did. Um, let's leave it at that.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, yeah. But now, you know, again, if you're going to make a change at a mature age, it has to be something that you enjoy, and there are opportunities out there right now. If you're a creative person, you have people who've been very successful on platforms like Etsy, that kind of thing.
Okay.
If you're, if your goal is to own, you know, now that the kids are grown, and really and truly, I have to primarily take care of Herbert, and in the process, hopefully leave some kind of legacy for my kids, right? Those are the driving factors right there. I still got to feed myself, yes, but
Yes.
again, that's taking care of Herbert, this one person. I've been blessed with good health, you know. You believe it or not, I still ride my bicycle every day.
Good. That's
So
good.
for those guys who knows me, for those of you folks who know me from back in the day growing up, yes, I still ride a bicycle, and I think it has helped me considerably stay healthy. But if you're going to transition, you, my recommendation to anybody, something that you enjoy, something that's purposeful, right? Something that's actionable, purposeful, and something that you enjoy.
That's that. I like that. I like that. Were your previous skills an asset to your new career?
um, yes and no. So in human resources, you have to deal with different personalities, and that has helped.
Okay.
Um, I'm not afraid to talk to people. Um, I can hold a conversation with anybody. Um, so that helps. Um, as a human resource professional, you also have to be a problem solver at times. In real estate, sometimes you have to be a problem solver. Um, so yes, that helps. The mechanics of it are very different, but some of the soft skill sets from human resources carry over. Now the
Okay.
rest of it, I guess my operations background when I was running from store to store,
Okay.
yeah, I guess that does help. Um, attention to detail, um, initiative. So I guess yes, I guess to some degree, what I did in the past did help. It did not hurt, that's for sure. I tell you another thing that's helped me a great deal:
Okay.
my ability to speak Spanish. The two and a
I
half years I
forgot.
spent in
I
Cuba.
forgot. I forgot about you being bilingual.
Yes, yes, yes. So the 2.5 years I spent in Cuba before coming back to
I
Jamaica to
remember.
teach.
Yeah.
Yeah, um, that has made a difference. So yeah,
What would you say to those who are afraid of trying something new?
don't be afraid. What you're afraid of, you know. s- you know, a friend of mine said, what does fear mean? And he said to me, and if he were listening, I don't think he's listening, but if he was listening, fear is false evidence appearing real. False evidence appearing real. Don't be afraid. Now, I'm not saying to dive in, mindlessly. You know, especially at this age, you got to be working with a budget. You got to watch your resources, right? You can't just blindly, commit resources that you don't have.
Yes.
But don't be afraid. You know, if you see something out there that you enjoy, take an inventory of your skill set and see how the skills that you've learned over time. Because again, like you said, as a mature individual, you have developed a certain set of skill sets. I mean, And if your inventory, if you look at it and you say, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. No, I'm going to struggle right here. I'm going to struggle right here. Because let's face it, at this age, at least I can speak for myself. At this age, sometimes you have to, you know, look at something, or learn something, once, twice, three times. One of my old senior VPs with one of the retailers I work for. I remember one day I picked him up at the airport. We were going to do store visits, and the first store we got into, it was horrible, horrible visit. Um, it was 2 days after this the store manager had received his delivery, his truck. The truck was not put up. The store was a mess. It was horrible. All right. Um, so of course I got yelled at. You know, Herbert, you got to have a conversation with this, a career conversation with this individual, all that kind of good stuff. Um, yeah, I listened, and he asked me, what do you have to say? And I said, here's the challenge I have with this particular individual, and I explained to him, and I said, yeah, I've told him over and over, this is what he needs to do, especially on truck day, how to prepare for a truck, how to, all that kind of good stuff, right? For his deliveries. And he said, Herbert, you can't get frustrated. It's rinse and repeat. It's like mouthwash. That's what he said to me. You're going to say the same thing over and over and over and over. Rinse and repeat like mouthwash. And in hindsight, I understand what he's saying. What he's saying is that sometimes, we all have challenges learning stuff. And
Yes.
sometimes we have to do it, see it possibly again, and then do it before we get it right. So
Yes.
rinse and repeat.
That's great advice. That's great
Rinse and
advice.
repeat.
That's one of the things, I work with a team of guys, and I had to learn how to speak to people, and I had to
Mm-hmm.
learn to keep my frustration to myself sometimes. And I think I even had to learn not to be condescending in my tone. And, and it wasn't that it was ever intentional, but it's like just learning how to deal with people. I was a stay-at-home mom for years.
Mm-hmm.
So getting back into the workforce, it had its challenges for me. So, you know, rinse and repeat. I will definitely remember that one.
it sounds silly, doesn't it?
No, but
But
it's really solid advice.
it's true. It's true. And I mean, I remember it, and it's stayed with me all these years. Yeah, sometimes again, as a mature individual, you have to do things more than once to get it right. At least
It's
that's
true.
been my opportunity. Um, it's not like when I was in my 20s, when you show me something once and I'd get it down. I mean, you know, I would like to think that you know, starting out, I was a quick study. You gave me anything, and I would make it happen. But as a mature individual, yes, you have to make sure that you're prepared, especially if you're going to transition into something brand new, that you're prepared to put the effort in, um, and that you're patient enough with yourself and with others. Okay, because even right now, once I got started with the organization that I'm in with right now, okay, and again, you know that you're not spoon fed because it's your own business.
Right.
I'm a private contractor as a realtor. All right. I don't work for this organization. I work with the organization. They provide the tools. I give them a part of my commissions. That's how it
Yes.
works. Okay. Um, they put me in the mentorship program, which fine. I wanted to be in the mentorship program. But what I considered mentorship was very different from what I found. I mean, when I was told to mentor somebody back in the days when I was running from store to store, when I was in the store operations leadership group, right? I basically held that individual's hand. showing them what I did, how to do it, the whole 9 yards.
Does
Here
that
now,
does that happen anymore? I mean,
well,
it's it's very rare, very
in
rare.
in in this environment that I'm in now in real estate, it doesn't happen because guess what? That person who's supposed to be helping me as a mentor, they also have to make sure that they're out there building their own business.
Yes,
So I don't have anybody to handhold. So here I am, 60 plus, not having somebody to hold my hand through stuff. Meanwhile, that's what I was anticipating. That's what I was expecting. But no, it didn't happen. I had to do the research. I had to do this. Now, before I did, anything that would have long-term consequences, I would have to run them down, find where they are, try and get 5 minutes with them and say, this is what I'm doing. Am I okay? Because in the wonderful world of real estate, there are many pitfalls. An example: if I show a house and not have a representation agreement, I
yes,
could lose my license. That's just an example. So there are many pitfalls, but you don't have anybody holding your hand. That's why it's more important than ever that you enjoy whatever it is that you're pursuing, because that will give you the uptake, the lift to do what you need to do.
definitely, definitely. I'd like to welcome our friend Stephanie. Thank you so much for tuning in. So I have to ask you about, you know, I started a new job in January.
Hmm.
And I remember when I was offered this new job, I was told that they were flying a gentleman in from Texas to come and train me, and he would train me for 3 weeks. And I remember panicking because I'm thinking, oh my gosh, they're sending this guy all the way from Texas to Florida. And I can't let them waste their money on this guy coming down to train me. And it
Hmm.
was a lot of technology, and I'm not the greatest when it comes to the computer. And it was a lot of information that I had to learn in the space of 3 weeks. But thank God, this instructor, he was very patient, he was very kind, he was very encouraging, he was very motivating. And I tell you, by the end of those 3 weeks, I mean, I won't lie to you, my 60-year-old brain was spinning, but
Hmm.
I did grasp the information. But if he had not been a very patient person, because there were a few things he had to show me more than once,
Hmm.
but repetition, and as I began to feel more confident, then I was able to grasp the information. But at first, I won't lie to you, I was intimidated. I didn't want to feel like I was old and slow. I wasn't able to grasp the information. So that leads to my next question. Should we fear aging as we face new challenges?
I mean, aging in itself is a challenge,
Yes.
as I mentioned before, and you kind of um, double down on it. Um, yeah, it's not like in high school. It's not like when I went to Cuba. I mean, even when I amazed myself how fast I learned Spanish. You know, as a non Spanish speaker originally. I mean, all I had was 9 months at the Language Training Center in Kingston. All right, try and do that now at age 60 plus, it probably wouldn't work very well, right? So yes, there are some challenges, but the advantages you have when you're younger, as far as uptake, as compared to now, right? You might not have the uptake, but again, if it's something that you enjoy and something you like, you have the commitment. So,
Yes.
one thing offsets the other. You might not have the uptake, but you have the commitment, the willingness to do what needs to be done to make it happen.
Yes.
So, and for me, that has meant more success than anything else. Being willing
Yes.
to do what is needed to make it happen. right?
Yes, yes.
Again,
I think that's true. I'd like to welcome my mom. Thank you so much for tuning in, mommy. You know, what I found was the very information that I was intimidated by, it made my job a lot easier.
mm-hmm,
It was like it opened up a whole new world to me.
right.
And I just couldn't believe, like, wow, I wish I'd known all of this information sooner.
And
So it helped me to continue to embrace learning new things.
right. And you know, again, once you start learning a new skill, because again, even when I was preparing for um, the, 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 the state board testing for real estate, right? Because you got to do, you got to do national standards and you got to do state specific standards, okay?
Okay.
You know, every state has its twist on um, a lot of these different processes as far as you know they every state has their own version of a lot of stuff, okay,
Yes.
so you have to do the state part, you have to be compliant also with the national requirements of real estate, okay. Initially, so the first so you have some pre-test, the first pre-test I did, right, and the reason I bring this up, the first pre-test I did, I barely passed. I just barely passed. But by the time I did number six, the sixth pretest, right? It was on a different subject. 'Cause you had to do law, you had to do sovereignty of the land, all kinds of stuff. Anyway, on board with all that, right? But by the time I reached number six, I was scoring in the high 90s,
Wow.
right? Why? Because repetition.
Repetition.
I
And
was.
Andrew Andrew is saying, as they say, repetition deepens the impression.
Yes, it does. Andrew, you're 100% right. Andrew Green, you're 100% right. The more I did it, the better I got. All right. Now, and again, you should see these manuals. They're huge. They have to
Yeah,
sit
I
down
bet.
and read. Okay. I mean, at first I was falling asleep. I would fall asleep over these books. But again, some of the study habits came back. All right.
Yes.
I started making, you know, a correlations to some of the tangible things I knew.
Yes.
Um, I had, I'd been through the house buying process 5 times, right? In Florida, in North Carolina, and here in Texas, I've owned homes, right? So I was familiar with some of the stuff, but the literature I was reading didn't make sense. But eventually, over time, I was able to understand some of the why behind what we were doing and what we did.
Okay.
Yeah. So again, fear is false evidence appearing real. Don't let fear stop you. Focus. Um, take an inventory of what your skills are. Be honest with yourself. Know what you're good at, and the things that you need help with. Go find help. Go seek help. Um, and there are nights when I would sit down and said, "Why am I doing this?" And I remember the
Yes.
commitment I made to Hida, and I'd pray about it, and I'd keep it moving. So,
That's so important. You know, something that I found is that, never be afraid to ask for help if you need it. You know, there were times where there were a couple things I struggled with in the beginning, and I didn't want to appear as if I didn't know what I was doing. But then I found, and the more I spoke to some of the higher ups, and they were like, hey, feel free to reach out. If you ever need help, there's something that you don't understand. Now, there are some people who are brilliant at explaining things. There are
mm-hmm,
some people when they have it down, boop, 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 and they think you have it, but you don't.
right,
You're lost in the shuffle. But there are some people who really know how to explain things to you. And I have found that it's better to ask, get the help, and have the understanding instead of stressing myself out because I'm not sure of something. And I think as we get older, we shouldn't see it as a curse or think that we're slower or we're not, not that good anymore. I
right.
think that we just have to. It's okay to reach out.
it's a muscle. You know, the mind is a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. You know,
I
and
agree.
for a lot of us, after a few years, we're on autopilot. Especially if we've been doing the same thing all along. If we've been doing
Yes.
the same function, the same job all along, all through our life, right? Then there's no challenge, and it's an autopilot. We would do it, you
Yes.
know, almost
Yes.
reflexively, right? And that is good, but at the same time, not learning something new or doing something different. I mean, like, you know, most of us, unfortunately, we spend more time, you know, with a screen than reading, researching. And the screens are good at helping us with reading and researching, but dude, the stuff that we do on the screen a lot of times is not real productive.
It's
You know what I'm
true.
saying?
It's true.
Yeah, whether it's a phone or a tablet or whatever. And don't get me wrong, I love technology. I love tech. I'm Even though I am not a technocrat, but I embrace technology. I've blown up a few computers in my life. Trust me. Right? I remember at one point in time, the tech guys, you know, they got tired of seeing me. You know, they would have to reformat my PCs because I do dumb stuff,
Yeah,
right?
I get
But
it.
in the process, I would learn what not to do,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
and I got better. I got better at it. Um, and as far as mentors, going back to mentors again, you got to be humble. You got to be
Yes.
willing to ask questions. If
So
you don't get
true.
the question answered in a way that you can assimilate it, find somebody else who might help you more. You know what I'm saying? You know, my mom, bless her soul, taught school for over 40 years. And one of the things she used to say to me, she said, don't get ripe, stay green. Don't get ripe, stay green. Because you know what comes after ripe? She said, you get rotten. So, I mean, you know my situation. I grew up with two wonderful
Yes.
women, my
Yes.
mother and my grandmother. I mean, you
Yes.
know, and these are the little things that I learned, you know. So I try to stay green, you know. Um, I try to learn something, you know, and it helps. And I try to maintain a positive attitude, um, you know, and I mean, some of the times it's been challenging, you know,
Yes.
as things happen in life. You ask yourself why. Um, but over time, you might, you know, get to understand the reason why, and you know, at the same time, you might not know for another lifetime, you know, until we meet our maker, right? But you can spend a lot of time fearing the unknown, but you cannot fear. You cannot fear something that you don't know.
So true.
Yeah.
So true. That is so true. My next question: what are attributes of mature employees? And I ask this question because I've I've worked with young people, I've worked with
Hmm.
people my own age, and there are positives in both age groups. I do, I think that people, as they get older, they're loyal, hardworking, dependable, they're on time, so I'd like you to address that.
Yeah, I think you're correct. Most mature individuals um, tend to be very loyal, and not all, most tend to be very
Right,
committed.
most,
But then
yes.
the paradigm has shifted over the years too. Um, I remember, you know, again, you know, so I'm going to go way back here.
Okay.
You know, even in high school, right? I mean, we used to work in the public works department every summer. You know, some of the gentlemen who were in leadership positions at the public works department, they would reach out, and I remember myself and Clive Blackwood and Richard Beckford. You know, there's a small nucleus of us that these gentlemen would come and say, "Hey, You're not going to sit down and run all over the place and ride bicycle and climb trees and all that kind of crap. You're going to come down and work. And it was good because for me it was great
Yeah.
because whatever money I made there, guess where it went? Into my bicycle. But it it, it taught me the principle of reward, work,
Yes.
reward. All right, and that has come in handy. That has been good for me and in my situation. What I mean by paradigm shifting, that paradigm um, that was created back then, the reward paradigm, right? Effort, reward. It's different now. Not saying that the younger folks don't have that paradigm, but as far as what effort means as compared to back then, it's very different.
Yes.
Um, there's a shorter time span. Most younger folks want results in less time. Okay, if they're not getting the results, right, they go elsewhere in a heartbeat. Case in point, my last year in econ, like I said, we had over 1,000 people in the building, right? When I got there, we were paying on average $9.50 an hour, $10.50 an hour, $9.50 an hour for people who were packing boxes,
Yes.
and $10.50 for people who were operating powered equipment, right? Of course, like I said, we had a lot of competition in the area. Every ecom operator was in the area.
Yes.
Constant battle, constantly fighting for help. My last year, we were paying somebody who was packing a box $18 an hour. So in
Wow.
5 years, it went from 9.50 to $18 an hour, right? But yet still, from January 2021 through December 3rd, 2021, our little group of people in the human resource department, there were three HR managers, one senior manager, four, five, six, seven admins, right? And one recruiter. 817 people. We hired 817 people, and we turned every single one of them in under a year. That's crazy.
Yeah.
817 people. I mean, that is crazy, you know? So I say this to mean that, well, if they could find 50 cents an hour more
They're gone.
across the street at
They're
another
gone.
operator, they
Yeah.
would say, goodbye, hasta la vista, see you all later, I am gone. All right. Now, a more tenured person, they would stick around
Yes.
because they got to know their leaders, they got to know what different world, the paradigm has
True.
changed, you know?
It's true.
Yeah.
That's so true. Now, my next question is, how important is it to brush up on skills or take a refresher course to keep up with the technology or whatever it is dealing with your job?
I mean, depending on what you're doing, like in my situation, I had no choice. I had to do different state tests and exams and everything. But not everything requires that.
Yes.
However, you know, again, I bring it back to what my mom said. Stay green, stay green. Okay,
Yes.
and when you learn and you're green, I mean, you know, this thing here, garbage in, garbage out. If you keep putting in, you know, good stuff, a good program in it, it will tend to last you a little longer. Those you know mental faculties are, if it's something creative, you know, you got to spur your creative, you know, mindset on whatever it is. There is something to be said to about enhancing what you're trying to do and enhancing what you've done. Don't sit on your laurels. Don't just sit back and, oh, this is gonna come naturally, or I don't have a significant investment in it, so I'm not gonna.
Right.
You worry about it. If you're truly committed, again, I repeat myself now. If you're truly committed, and it's something that you enjoy, then do what it takes.
I
Yeah.
I I definitely agree with that. Like even doing this podcast, using the streaming software. I remember having my challenges in the beginning, but
Hmm.
as we talked about early, repetition, it's like each week feeling more comfortable with it. But it's like with this app that I'm using now, there are so many really cool features that I've not figured out yet. But it's like I keep telling myself, one day I'm going to take an hour and play around with the different features.
Right.
I keep saying it, but I've not done it. So it's like if I want to improve, then I need to take the time to, put into it because
Right.
I know I'll reap the rewards of it. So as I've as I've done this, when I think back to when I started, I was using like the Facebook Live. And, you know, I didn't really like it that much because for me, it didn't look as professional as I wanted it to look. So when I embraced a new, one of the apps I used before, I was amazed at how things went smoother, and it just made things look a lot better, a lot more professional.
Hmm.
So I say that to challenge, the viewers out there, like it's okay to try new things. It's okay to, I used to worry about making a mistake. There were times
Hmm.
where while we would be on air, things would go wrong, but it's like a part of the growing process.
It is. It is. And I mean, again, you keep adding, fresh data to your mind. Um, it keeps you sharp. Um,
Yes,
I think it makes it, you're exercising that mental muscle.
so important.
Yeah, very, very important. And again, you know, just like we talked about before, the the more you practice, the better you get. I mean, think about, I reflect back on the days when, you know, we were riding and we used to compete and everything. And, so we would get down to Montego Bay for a competition, and, get our butts handed to us. And we would come back, you know, feeling, not very great. But again, for some of us, it inspired us, and we worked that much harder. And then we would go back down to Montego Bay the following year, and guess what? We would do better, right? Again, because we put the work in, we put the effort in. Um, but again, don't let fear get in your way. Um, you know, um, don't let fear get in your way. That's all I can say.
What would you say to the individual who right now mature, someone mature like ourselves, they're looking for a new job, a new career, whatever it is, and they're feeling a bit rejected, they're not sure where to turn. What encouragement would you like to offer to those individuals?
I would say go out there and do it. Pursue something that you enjoy. Um, it might not pay you what you're looking for initially, but if you enjoy it and you put effort in, you should get better. You should get better at it. Once you demonstrate, you know, what you're worth, your skill set, then don't be afraid to, if one particular environment is not rewarding you sufficiently, then change the environment, go somewhere else. I don't know if a lot of, you know, a lot of us pay attention to some of the articles on AARP. I'm an AARP card member. I'm proud of it. Okay. But there was an article that talked about the fact that a lot of employers are looking for mature individuals to come to work for them. apply. You know, use the resources around you. Be willing to use the resources around you and get some help. You know, ask questions. You know, um, I think occupation as a mature individual. I'm not saying it's a the paradoxical cure for aging, but I do think it helps. Um, I remember my mom when she stopped teaching. That's when she got sick. My mom taught forever, as you
Yes.
all know. All right, every day is here walking down to the school. Um, but I think it kept her motivated. I think it helped her, um, stay engaged. There's something to be said for occupation. Um, Another thing she used to say. Here's another thing she used to say. She said, I won't remember one evening. So when I was working with Royal Caribbean, I remember I came home, and I was coming from the West Coast and got to Jamaica, got to Montego Bay, and then back then there was an air taxi. Took an air taxi into St. Margaret's Bay, right? And I had to wait for a long time before I got somebody to come from Port Antonio to pick me up in St. Margaret's Bay and take me back home. So I didn't get home till like 1 o'clock in the morning, right? My mom was waiting for me.
No.
We sat down and we talked till almost 5 o'clock in the morning. And as she got older, her and I got closer because at one point in time I was a thorn in her side. But that's another story. All right. But she said, Bertie, I would rather wear out than rust out. That's what she said. She would rather wear out than rust out.
Wow.
Um, Something to be said for
It's
occupation.
it's
So,
you it's keeping active. I think it just, it makes all the difference in the world.
uh,
You know, I would like, to bring up that, like, the job where I'm working now, when I started, and I had been looking for a job for a long time, and no luck. And a friend of mine was working in a warehouse. So she told me, put in an application. And I remember when I went for the interview, I had on my designer dress, my high heels, and, I stuck out like a sore thumb.
hmm
And I remember the manager saying to me, "You're overqualified." But I said to him, at the end of the day, I need a job. So I don't care. As long as I'm earning a living, I don't mind. I'll give it a try. And I remember going, he walked me through the warehouse. He said, "It's loud, it's dusty." And I said, "That's fine. I'll be able to do it." And I'll never forget the first time I had to handle a pallet jack and all of
mm,
that. It was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm doing this. But I knew they did not expect me to stay there. I knew that they expected me to last maybe a few days. So my pride is what pushed me to do it. It was physical, but one of the beautiful things about it was I learned about the running of a warehouse.
hmm
I learned about the running of a warehouse. It gave me a better understanding of how things operated. So when a dispatching position came up and I applied for it, I remember my manager telling me, your knowledge of the warehouse will help you with what you're doing in the dispatching position. And that job in the warehouse is what led me to the job that I have now.
yes.
So I'd like to say to those out there that sometimes we have to put our pride aside, and you may be overqualified for a job, but sometimes you just don't know where it may lead. So I would suggest, to be open minded because you just never know.
You never know. And again, I take it a step further. I mean, I've had people who have come back to me and said, "Hey, um, I appreciate the help you gave me. Um, if it weren't for you, I wouldn't stay doing what I'm doing, right? And I'm not trying to preach here, okay? But maybe you're destined to meet that person and help them along the way. right?
Yes.
I mean, oftentimes, you know, our encounters with different individuals, as we get older, we become, most of us become more skilled at handling conversations with some of these individuals. And we might be that little lantern in their life.
I totally agree with that. Andrew says here, a new career for seniors keeps us active, engaged, and younger in spirit. And I
Absolutely.
definitely agree with that. You know, Bertie, what you're saying is so true. You know, I like to speak to the younger people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I like to kind of, hey, if I see something's not looking right, hey, just letting you know, I was your age once. I've made some mistakes.
Right.
Give them that little talk, you know, that encouragement. And I found that when they know that you'll listen to them and not judge them, they'll actually come and ask you for advice or, you know, try to learn something from you. So that's an excellent point.
And you didn't go into that position assuming that you were going to be a cheerleader.
Right.
However, however, we all need cheerleaders in our life sometimes. All right.
Yes.
And again, might be a total stranger, but you're there. And to Andrew's comment, I have a lot of people who are amazed at my age, you know, um, because again, you know, I'm not. I've not isolated myself as I've aged. I've tried to stay connected, and in turn, some of those young folks are rubbing off on me. So again, it's a win-win. It's a win-win. You know, but again, I can't stress how important it is to find something that you enjoy. You don't pursue the dollars and cents initially.
I
If you
agree.
enjoy it and it's meeting, if it's meeting 50% or better of your needs, then do it. At some point.
I definitely agree with you on that one, Herbert. And I tell you something that I have found now, like learning the new skills that I learned for my new position, it keeps my brain active every day,
Absolutely.
every single day. And I love the challenge of going in, knowing that, hey, if someone calls out, I'll have to make changes. I'll have to do this. I'm thinking, I try to stay one step ahead,
Your
but
problem
I love
solving.
the challenge, right? I
Yeah.
love the challenge of that. And at the end of the day, when everything has been completed, there's a sense of satisfaction that I get
Absolutely.
from that each and every day. So to keep using the brain, I think it's a gift. And
Mm-hmm.
I am just so thankful for it to still be able to do the problem solving and not be stressed out. And actually, it's like second nature to me now. If a problem
Mm-hmm.
comes up, you know, I know that I can solve it, but I also know that if I need help, there's someone that I can reach out to that will help me figure it out.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Um, but I would encourage anybody, any one of our peers, anybody else who's listening to this podcast, um, people who we don't know, whoever, um, and there's something to be said about staying connected as you mature. I like using the word mature. You know,
Yes.
because
Yes. No, I don't use the word old.
I don't
I
feel
don't
old.
use the word senior since I don't but mature. I like that because at the end of the day, I am learning to embrace it because I think there's some really good things about getting older. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you're more in tune with who you are. There's a whole new appreciation for life,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and, you know, embracing new challenges. I'm at that point now where I'm actually starting to enjoy. I'm not telling you I want problems, but challenges, something
Mm-hmm.
that will challenge my brain, get me thinking. I enjoy it.
Yeah, and I I, I I I I don't need to tell some of you that taking a minute to be grateful every day makes a difference.
Yes.
Taking a minute to pray every day makes a difference. Sometimes some of my biggest inspirations come when I've gone through my quiet time in the mornings
Yes.
and I'm out there on the bicycle. And then I said, haha, this might work. If there's a particular situation you know, that has been around for a few days, you know, that quiet time in the morning, that time of prayer and meditation,
Yes.
and then getting out on my bicycle for an hour, it's as if it resets my perspective. Um, it makes me realize how much I have to be thankful for because, again, some of our peers at our age are not able to participate in some of the things that we've been talking about.
In
Uh,
fact, a lot of our peers are no longer here.
yeah.
Unfortunately, a lot of our peers are now deceased. So it gives you something to think about. And
Mm-hmm.
I like the idea that I like the fact that you brought up you ride your bicycle. And let me ask you this: in the mornings when you get up to ride your bicycle, or even to do your devotions, do you always feel like it?
It's almost automatic now. Um, Initially, it was a struggle
Yes.
to get up in the morning,
Yes.
but since retiring, actually, it's gotten even easier since retiring. Since retiring from the the the, the, the e-com and the drug
Yeah,
retail, it's gotten easier for me to get up in the mornings, and because again, I know I'm on my time. I know I'm on God's time. You know, so I spend it wisely. I, I,
it's an investment in yourself.
right.
Mikey's saying we'll watch this one later. Mikey, thank you for tuning in. And hey, if you have any comments when you watch the replay, please feel free to post them.
And one thing I want to tell you though, I go to bed early. Usually by 10 o'clock, I am out.
But
Unless.
that's good. I think sleep is important. I used to stay up until midnight. I don't do that nonsense
No.
anymore. When I'm off, when I have the next day off, I'll stay up and watch movies and all that. But like yourself, I'm in
Mm-mm.
bed by 10 most nights. You can call me an
Yep.
old woman if you want to, but
Yeah.
I have found when I get my sleep, I function better, keeps my mind sharp, and
Absolutely.
sleep is just like you working out in the morning. Sleep, I think they're all investments in you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a formula that works, and so I plan to keep it that way.
Definitely, definitely. I'm glad you mentioned that. Well, Herbert, thank you so much. I definitely would love for you to come back. Let me know when you're available. Let me know what topic you'd like to cover. But I'd like to ask you, what are your closing thoughts for tonight?
Um, Closing thoughts. Again, just reminding everybody that to you know embrace their God-given talents. Don't let it fester inside of them unused. Um, Go out there and do that thing. Some of us may have some physical challenges as mature individuals, but find workarounds. If you really, really want to make a difference, if you really, really, you know, have been saying to yourself, I plan to do this or I plan to do that, just do it. What do you have to lose? What do you have to lose?
I
Just,
agree.
just like Nike says, just do
Just
it.
do it.
Yeah.
Just do it.
Yeah.
Opal says good night to you both. Opie, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you'll watch the replay. Guys, please feel free to share this. And if you have any questions, feel free to post them, and I'll get with Herbert so that he can answer your questions. Herbert, thank you so much for this discussion. I mean, it was very encouraging, and I'm hoping that it will offer some encouragement to those who need it right now.
This has been fun, Brie, and I appreciate you having me on.
Oh, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to have you on. It's like it's amazing. Like I think of us being in our 60s. But it's like when we talk, I still see us as kids, the kids that we were.
Yeah, listen, I mean, yeah, it's refreshing. That's all I can say.
It is.
It
It
is
it
refreshing.
definitely is. But I would say that, age is a state of mind.
It
Yes,
is.
embrace where you are, but just because you're a certain age, it doesn't mean you're old. It doesn't mean that you're done with. It doesn't mean you're ready for the heat pile. It's like,
Nope.
no, you
Nope.
still have a lot to offer to society. You still have a lot to offer. So don't cheat yourself. Get out there and embrace that new career if that's what you feel that you should do. Because for some people, when they retire, that's when they're not active anymore. They're
Hmm.
not, they're just chilling out all the time. And I think it's okay to chill out and all that, but you need activity in your life, I
You need
believe.
activity. You need physical activity. You need mental step. Mental.
Yes.
Um.
Mental, yeah, you do.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
do. Mental, yeah, you need that. You definitely need that.
Yeah.
Stephanie's saying enjoyed listening to both of you, and she said wisdom, agree. Age is a state of mind. We have lots more to offer, and I
Yes.
definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
Mental stimulation. I know that's what you were thinking of, Herbert. Mental
There you go. Thank
stimulation.
you.
It's so important. I do a lot of reading. I watch a lot of videos like YouTube. There are so many, there's a lot of things out there that, not all information is 100% accurate, but
No, no, it's not.
you can find really great information there. So keep the mind going, challenge yourself, and, it's a gift to you.
And don't forget, we have a lot to offer. As
Yes,
mature individuals, we have a lot to offer, and I think it's a good legacy for our kids, um, to see that we don't quit.
I
Um,
agree. I
so
agree. I agree.
yeah,
This was great, Herbert. Let me know. Hey, just reach out to me and let me know when you're ready to come back. And like I said, thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
it's a pleasure. We'll be talking.
Definitely. And to the
All right.
viewers,